Alright, Tenno. Warframe is one of those games that just does not hold your hand at all. The second you step out of the tutorial, you're thrown into a universe of weird space ninjas, confusing modding systems, and enemy that somehow go from level 10 to unkillable in 5 seconds. And if you're anything like me when I started, you probably made some horrible mistakes. Like spending platinum on trash, ignoring mods, or thinking sprinting was the best way to move. Yeah, we've all been there. But you don't have to suffer like I did. So whether you're a new player or just someone looking to see how many of these you learned the hard way, here are 10 things I wish I knew sooner in Warframe. Let's get into it. One of the biggest mistakes new players make is assuming that high mastery rank weapons automatically mean high damage. You finally get your hands on a cool, powerful looking gun, take it into a mission, and it hits like a wet noodle. Meanwhile, some other player is deleting entire rooms with a weapon you thought was garbage. The truth is, your weapon is only as good as the mods you put on it. Mods are what actually determine your weapon's power, not its mastery rank or base stats. A fully modded MK1 Bratton can outperform an unmodded Prime weapon every single time. Mods like Serration, Split Chamber, elemental combos like Corrosive Viral, and others are what turns your weapon into an absolute destruction machine. Without the right mods, even the strongest weapons will feel weak, and if you're wondering why enemies seem to shrug off your attacks, it's probably because you're running unranked or mismatched mods. Understanding modding isn't just about damage either, it's also about efficiency. You can have the best weapon in the game, but if you're constantly running out of ammo or struggling with slow reload speeds, it won't feel good to use. Mods like ammo mutation, fire rate boosts, and reload speed enhancements can completely change how a weapon feels in combat. So don't just slap on damage mods and call it a day. Experiment and find what works best for your playstyle. But don't beat yourself up if modding feels confusing at first. I've been playing Warframe for 7 years, and I still make some of the worst modding choices imaginable. The system is deep, and there's always more to learn. The best advice is just to start simple. Focus on ranking up your essential mods first, and over time, you'll start to understand the more advanced synergies. Before you know it, you'll be the one carrying missions with an overpowered build. One of the biggest rookie mistakes in Warframe is wasting platinum on standard Warframes. It's tempting. You see a cool Warframe in the market, you have some spare plat, and you think, why not just buy it instead of farming? But here's the thing, every single non-prime Warframe is farmable. You can earn them all through gameplay, whether by grinding bosses, doing quests, or farming materials. Spending platinum on them is like paying real money for something you could get with just a bit of effort. The only time it actually makes sense to spend platinum on Warframes is with Prime Access or Prime Resurgence. Prime Warframes rotate in and out of availability, and sometimes farming their relics can take a long time. If you really want a Prime Warframe immediately, then Prime Access is an option, but even then, you can just trade for relics or buy the parts from other players. So instead of burning platinum on Warframes, save it for things that actually matter, like Warframe slots, weapon slots, or cosmetics. Nothing feels worse than realizing you spent your hard-earned plat on something you could have farmed in a weekend. If you're going to spend money, spend it wisely, because trust me, you'll need those slots later. If you've ever been broke in Warframe, you might have considered typing, "Can someone give me some plat?" in trade chat. And if you did, I promise you every veteran player cringed a little. Warframe has one of the easiest player-to-player trading systems in any MMO light. And platinum is ridiculous easy to earn if you know what to sell. You don't need to spend real money, you just need to know what's valuable. The best way to make platinum as a new player is by selling prime parts, rare mods, and Iatan sculptures. Every time you crack open a relic, you're rolling for platinum, because prime parts are always in demand. Even if you don't get a rare drop, duping parts with void traces and selling full sets can bring in solid plat. Rare mods, especially ones like Condition Overload or prime mods from Baro Katir, you can also sell for a decent amount. And if you're swimming in Iatan sculptures, turn them in for endo, or better yet, sell fully socketed ones to lazy players for instant plat. If you're serious about trading, Warframe.market is your best friend. Instead of spamming trade chat for hours, this site lets you see real-time prices and list your items for sale. No scams, no guessing, just easy platinum. The market constantly shifts, so checking prices before selling something can save you from getting ripped off. If you ever wonder, is this worth selling? Check the site first. At the end of the day, making platinum in Warframe is about playing smart, not begging in chat. Whether it's splitting prime parts, selling valuable mods, or trading rare items, there's always a way to get plat. So instead of asking for handouts, start farming, learn the market, and watch your plat stack up. Mastery rank in Warframe is important, and unlocks better weapons, increases standing caps, and gives you a sense of progression. But here's the thing, it's not the ultimate measure of skill. Some players grind MR as fast as possible, leveling up every single weapon in Warframe they can find, only to realize they still struggle in actual missions. If you're MR 30 but have no good mods, no 4-mod weapons, and no solid builds, then all that rank means is nothing. It's like having a PhD but failing basic math. Instead of obsessing over MR, focus on building a strong arsenal. Don't waste time grinding weapons you don't enjoy just for the MR boost. Some weapons are straight up awful without the right mods, and forcing yourself to level them just to rank up won't make you a better player. And prioritize weapons and warframes that actually feel fun and youthful. You'll progress naturally while still enjoying the game. That being said, don't ignore MR entirely. Some of the best weapons and features are locked behind it, so ranking up does have its perks. Just don't let that become your only goal. A well-modded MR10 player with a properly built warframe and weapon will always outperform an MR30 player who has no idea what they're doing. Play smart, rank up at your own pace, and remember, skill and knowledge matter way more than a flashy number next to your name. If you're coming from other games, you might assume that enemy levels in Warframe work like they do in traditional RPGs, where a level 50 enemy is tough but manageable, and a level 100 enemy is just a bit harder. Yeah, no. Warframe scaling is an entirely different beast. Once enemies start hitting higher levels, their armor, health, and damage don't just increase, they multiply. This is why an enemy that was a joke at level 20 can suddenly feel invincible at a level 100. The biggest offender here is armor scaling. Most enemies in Warframe, especially Grineer, have armor that grows exponentially with their level. At first, you might not notice it, but as enemies scale up, their armor makes them take significantly less damage. This is why your weapons suddenly feel weak in Steel Path or long endurance runs. Unless you're stripping armor with corrosive viral or abilities that bypass it, higher level enemies can turn into absolute bullet sponges. This is also why damage types and builds matter so much. If you're just stacking raw damage without considering armor stripping mechanics, corrosive heat, or armor removal abilities like Ash's Shuriken or Unaro's Caustic Strike, you'll struggle in high level content. Even the strongest weapons can feel useless if they aren't modded properly for the enemies you're facing. Learning how to counter enemy scaling is what separates new players from veterans, who can effortlessly clear Steel Path. So don't be fooled by enemy levels. A level 50 enemy in Warframe can be stronger than a level 100 boss in other games. The difficulty curve isn't linear, and understanding scaling is the key to surviving tougher content. If you ever feel like your damage just disappears past a certain level, it's not just you, it's Warframe's brutal scaling at work. Adapt your builds, use the right damage types, and you'll tear through high level enemies like they're still level 10. If you're new to Warframe, your first instinct might just be to sprint everywhere. That's what most games teach you, right? Hold shift, run fast, done. But in Warframe, sprinting is one of the slowest and least efficient ways to move. If you're not bullet jumping, rolling, and aim gliding, you're basically moving in slow motion compared to everyone else. This isn't Call of Duty. This is a game where space ninjas can fly across entire maps in seconds. I've seen plenty of new players ignore bullet jumping at first, not realizing just how powerful it is, especially people who I have taught myself, to a point where that has to be my number one lesson in the beginning of teaching them how to play Warframe. Bullet jumping isn't just about speed. It makes you harder to hit, helps you reposition instantly, and lets you move through missions way faster. Combine it with rolling and aim gliding, and you'll be zipping through levels at ridiculous speeds. Some players can even outpace Arcwings in open world maps just by chaining movement techniques together. So if you're still sprinting from point A to B, stop. Start practicing bullet jumps, mix in rolls and aim glides, and watch how much faster and smoother your gameplay becomes. Once you get used to it, you'll wonder how you ever played without it. One of the worst mistakes you could make as a new player is selling your Warframe or weapons just to free up inventory space. I know it can be tempting, slots aren't cheap, and you're running out of space in your inventory, but trust me, selling off your hard-earned Warframes is a decision you will regret. The second you sell a Warframe, you'll either want it back or need it for a builder mission. And guess what? Now you're forced to grind for it again, and it's going to take way more time than it would have to just buy a slot or manage your inventory a little better. Instead of selling Warframes or weapons, spend your platinum wisely. Use it to buy additional slots or take advantage of rewards and events that offer free slots. Warframe frequently gives player extra slots through login rewards and even special promotions, so you can expand your inventory without spending plat on something you'll regret. And if you're still in a bind, remember you can always trade for platinum by selling rare mods, Iatan sculptures, or prime parts, things that won't come back to haunt you later. When you sell a Warframe, you're not just giving up a character or weapon, you're giving up your time and effort. If you farmed that frame or weapon, you know the grind it took. Selling it just to clear up space is a short-sighted decision. Later on, you'll find yourself wishing you had kept it, and now you're back to square one. Even if it feels like it's easier to just make some quick plat, the cost in time and effort will hit you harder in the long run. So never sell your weapons or Warframes. It's just not worth it. Instead, use your platinum on slots or work the market to make some plat without parting with your gear. It's always better to keep what you've worked for, and in Warframe, that collection of Warframes and weapons can often end up being the best part of the game. Keep your stuff and keep your sanity intact. We've all been there. You're in a mission, you're stuck on a task, and you fire up chat to ask the question that's been bugging you. Where do I get neurodes? And then you wait, and wait, and wait. 5 minutes later, someone finally spells the answer you could have easily found yourself. Just check the Codex. Here's the thing, the Codex exists to answer these exact questions, so why not use it? The Warframe Codex is like the game's own personal search engine, and it's packed with information. Want to know where to farm a specific resource? It's in the Codex. Curious about Warframe's abilities or lores? The Codex has you covered. Instead of wasting time in chat, waiting for someone to answer your questions, or worse, getting no answer at all, use the Codex. It's right there in your menu, ready to save your time and frustration. I get it, though. The Codex might seem overwhelming at first, especially with how much it covers, but once you realize just how easy it is to look up what you need, you'll wonder why you ever bothered asking chat. Whether it's an obscure mod, a resource drop, or a boss location, the Codex can get you the info you need in a couple of clicks, and it's available 24/7. Instead of waiting for someone else to take a guess, become your own resource and start using the Codex to get things done quicker. When you first start playing Warframe, the endgame is all about grinding, unlocking frames, farming for materials, and climbing the progression ladder. But let me tell you, once you're deep into the game, you realize the true endgame is not about grinding for more gear, it's about fashion frame and having fun. That's right, Warframe's real endgame is all about decking out your frames in the most ridiculous, stylish, or absurd outfits you can think of messing around with, builds that are borderline broken. Yeah, sure, you spent 200 hours grinding for the sweet prime frame, and now it's time to make it look cool. So what do? You spent another 600 hours, and you slap on a cape, choose some flashy neon energy colors, maybe throw in some wild armor attachments, and boom, you got a frame that is awesome to look at as it is to play. Fashion frame is basically an art form, and trust me, once you start customizing your frames, you'll find yourself spending more time in the arsenal than in missions trying to make everything look perfect. But it's not just about looking good. The fun part about Warframe really kicks in when you start experimenting with wild builds. You'll eventually reach a point where you're no longer chasing the meta. You'll start putting together broken, experimental builds just for the chaos of it. Want to see how much damage you can do with a completely off-meta weapon or how ridiculously tanky you can make a frame? Go for it. Warframe's sandbox nature encourages messing around and breaking the rules, and that's where the real enjoyment lies. In the end, Warframe is a game that keeps giving long after you've hit all the major milestones. Sure, the grind for better gear is fun, but the real satisfaction comes from expressing yourself through the frames and discovering the chaos of inside builds. So yes, grind. When you first dive into Warframe, it's a lot. Between the endless Warframes, weapons, mods, and the fast-paced combat, it's easy to feel like you're drowning in a sea of options. You're not alone in feeling overwhelmed. Every veteran player has been where you are. It's normal to be confused at first, and honestly, there's no shame in not understanding everything right away. This game throws you into the deep end, and it takes time to get the hang of it. Warframe is like learning a new language. When you start, you might not get why some weapons are so powerful or why mods even matter. But over time, it does all start to click. You'll begin to understand how modding works, how to tackle different enemies, and how to set up your Warframe for the best experience. It won't make sense immediately, but once you start connecting the dots, you'll see how the pieces fit together. Don't expect everything to be crystal clear within your first 50 hours. Give yourself time to grow. One of the most important things I could tell you is to take your time and enjoy the journey. Don't rush to hit the highest master rank or try to copy what everyone else is doing. The meta is always changing, and chasing it can be exhausting. Find what you enjoy, whether that's farming for new frames, experimenting with builds, or exploring the vast lore and missions Warframe has to offer. Everyone's path through the game is different, and that's what makes it so fun. In the end, Warframe isn't about rushing to the finish line, it's about enjoying the ride. Sure, there's a lot to learn, but don't let that intimidate you. Take your time, experiment with builds, and discover the best parts of Warframe that bring you the most joy. You'll get there, and you'll have a blast doing it. And that's 10 things I wish I knew sooner in Warframe. Hopefully this helps you avoid some of the mistakes I made when I started. Warframe can be overwhelming, but trust me, it all clicks with time. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like and subscribe, and if you want to support me making 3 uploads a week, consider joining the channel membership for as low as $1 a month. You can also catch me live on Twitch weekly every Saturday, so come hang out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.